Alexis's first birthday, you see 5 generations together. There with her little one, her baby, was her adoration.
Elizabeth Fouquet speaks for the first time. Her daughter Aurélie, a municipal policewoman and mother of a 14-month-old boy, was killed by a burst of Kalashnikov almost 6 years ago.
Aurélie, my God, she was a charismatic young woman. She was a tiny little woman, about 5'4". She loved what she did. She loved this job. At the same time, it was a humane job, since they had to deal with shopkeepers, school children, and ultimately all citizens. Losing her shattered the family and created chaos. We were plunged into a life where no one had their bearings. It was difficult, and it remains difficult anyway. No matter what we do, she's missed.
Aurélie Fouquet died at the age of 26. The first municipal policewoman killed in the line of duty. A gang of bank robbers, led by Redouane Faïd, is believed to be responsible for her death. Faïd, a multi-recidivist who claimed to have settled down. Everything came to a head one morning. At this crossroads, police officers wanted to check a van, which appeared to be in poor condition. The driver took off. A chase ensued. On the A4 freeway, the occupants of the van opened fire on their pursuers and managed to lose them. They exit the freeway at Villiers-sur-Marne. In these images, they are seen stealing a car from a motorist. They then set fire to their van. At this point, a municipal police car arrives on the scene. It's 9:45. Valérie, a local resident, approaches the crossroads.
I was just about there when I started to see what I thought was an accident. That's when the police car arrived. They turned like this. They stopped, and then it went really, really fast. There was a burst of gunfire. It went really, 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 really fast. I heard a scream. A scream. It's not a movie scream, a howl that we're used to. It's not a scream you hear with your ears, it's a scream you feel.
Policewoman Aurélie Fouquet suffered a serious head injury. Her colleague had just enough time to shoot back. 37 Kalashnikov casings were found on the ground. The fugitives had disappeared. At the same time, Elizabeth, the policewoman's mother, was taken to hospital where her daughter was in a coma.
I wanted to see her. I told me, but where is she? What happened? I had no answer. Our medical team took us in, and just like that, they said, "Come on, follow us." In silence, I said, "Why aren't you talking? What's going on? What didn't I understand?" And then they explained to us the injuries she'd sustained. So we were allowed just long enough to see her a little. And by the time her sister arrived, unfortunately, her little heart stopped again, and it was over.
Aurélie Fouquet's death provoked considerable emotion. At her funeral, hundreds of police came to pay their respects. Thanks to an incredible combination of circumstances, a gang of bank robbers is immediately suspected of the murder. 2 days before the tragedy, by chance, Parisian policemen had spotted the van used in the shooting, stolen and falsely registered. Nearby was a second van, also stolen, which the police had fitted with a discreet GPS beacon similar to this one to track the vehicle's movements. Isabelle Trouslard, a commander in the criminal brigade, took part in the investigation with the banditry unit. She remembers that everything went quickly thanks to this beacon.
The marked van ended up in practically the same place, in the same geographical area, as the van that went on the chase and in the shootout. This will be decisive for the investigation because as the beacon works, it will enable us to find this vehicle quite quickly. And so for the time being, to set up a surveillance system to wait for someone to get to the vehicle. As it happens, someone will arrive at the vehicle fairly quickly, at the end of the day, in fact, in relation to the time of the shooting, and this person is going to be arrested.
The first suspect was Malik Qaida, 42 years old and already convicted of robberies. He was arrested in possession of 2 bags filled with weapons and ammunition. In police custody, he immediately admitted to being part of the group of robbers who, that morning, were to attack an armored car containing 12 million euros. But according to his lawyer, he had only a menial mission.
His role precisely was to be in what is known as an escort vehicle, a support vehicle, and his role was precisely to place chocks to block the wheels of a possible armored car. He went on to explain that that morning he had driven towards Bonneuil-sur-Marne and that, on the way, the other vehicle containing the criminals had been chassed by the police. He then decided to turn around and go home.
Malik Qaida is incarcerated, but he is not suspected of having been part of the commando that killed the policewoman. To identify the other members of the gang, the 36 Quai des Orfèvres investigators retraced the route of the marked van. The days leading up to the murder, Qaida's van was spotted the day before the shooting in the northern suburbs of Paris. And he was not alone. In front of him, another van. It's the one that will be used at Villiers-sur-Marne. And ahead, a Renault Megane that seems to be leading the way. The 3 vehicles stop at this service station. Thanks to CCTV footage, the police recognized the driver of the Megane. It's Redouane Faïd, a tough guy from the suburbs with 6 previous convictions, including for van robberies. Investigators are wondering whether he might be the mastermind behind the operation. Gradually, the suspected robbers were identified. During the attack, one of the robbers was wounded. Blood was found. It was Olivier Tracula, 35 years old, a repeat offender. He is a close associate of Faïd. In the Creel housing estate, where the kingpin hails from, the police are interested in 6 other suspects, all of whom have a criminal record.
A number of individuals who have either already worked together, know each other or may have met on various occasions, notably during prison stays, and who are clearly involved in this case.
On the 11th of January 2011, 6 months after the murder of Aurélie Fouquet, a police raid was organized. None of the suspects admitted involvement in the robbery. All were taken into custody. But on the morning of the raid, the main suspect, Redouane Faïd, disappeared from his home. However, for the past 3 months, the man, an employee of this temporary employment agency, had not been in hiding. Quite the contrary, in fact. Author of an autobiography, he promoted his book by presenting himself as a repentant bank robber.
If you can swear it, you'll never fall again. Oh, I know.
What I know is that my demons are not asleep, but completely dead.
Redouane Faïd was even interviewed by former Interior Minister Jean-Louis Debré.
I'd like to know if you regret that period?
Personally, I regret that period. There's no going back. I wouldn't do it again. You know, when you do hold-ups, you're sometimes comforted by the idea that you can master any situation. It's almost like a feeling of invincibility.
Jérôme Pierre is the journalist who wrote the book with Redouane Faïd. He was in daily contact with her before and after the shooting and became her friend. He doesn't understand how Faïd could have led a double life.
He works during the day. I come to see him. Either we work at lunchtime here or at my place for lunch. In the evening, he rushes off to pick up his son at 6 p.m. He has a very busy schedule. It's like everyone else's schedule. Subway, work, bed. When you see crooks who usually work, life as a crook is pretty time-consuming. You've got to get a move on. There's no telephone. They've got to meet up. They've got to prepare their stuff. It's a full-time job, especially on cases as big as the ones he's accused of and so on. So it didn't fit. It just didn't fit.
Faïd was arrested and incarcerated after 6 months on the run. His lawyer refused to answer our questions. Before the judge, Faïd denied any involvement. According to him, if he was seen at the gas station the day before the shooting, at the same time as the suspect vans, was an unfortunate coincidence. He will not be charged with the murder, but with the preparation of the robbery. For Aurélie Fouquet's family lawyer, Laurent Franck-Liénard, the repentant hold-up man is not one.
The fact that at the same time he's putting on an act, putting himself forward, doing TV shows, shows that he's inflated. That's it. He's bold. He's a boy who's afraid of nothing, who must feel completely at ease because he's so sure of himself. He was very sure of his strategy. He was convinced that he couldn't let anything happen to him.
Does Redouane Faïd expect to be sentenced again? After 2 years in pre-trial detention, he escaped from the Sequedin prison in the north of France. A spectacular escape involving hostages, weapons and explosives. He was finally recaptured after 6 weeks on the run. At his trial, he will appear alongside 7 alleged accomplices. But only 2 are directly accused of the murder, as their presence at the time of the shooting is attested. According to one witness, Rabia Aida was the passenger in the van. Daoud Ababa is said to have left burn marks after setting fire to the vehicle. Olivier Tracula, the injured perpetrator, is also accused of the murder, but the police never found him. He believes he died as a result of the shooting. Aurélie's family may never know who took their daughter away from them. With 2 weeks to go before the hearing, Elisabeth Fouquet is well aware of this.
You learn to live with the pain, but not to have an answer, not to see your daughter's murderer. That's even more terrible.
Aurélie's son is now 7 years old. Alexis is being raised by her former partner and his grandparents.